So this is the AFF Gallery in Friedrichshain in Berlin, and it's a photographer-run non-profit gallery that's organized and developed and run by a group of photographers. The work that is shown here is shown without commercial worries in terms of they're not concerned so much about who's going to sell or who's cool in the art world or what have you, and they do a lot of work to curate work by newer photographers, up-and-coming photographers who might otherwise not have a chance to show in Germany, a lot of photographers from Eastern European countries, and it's been running, I think, for 8 years in this space, 6 to 8 years in this space. And I met the gallery through one of my colleagues last year, and I was a member of the gallery for a very short amount of time, until I realized how much work goes into running a space like this. There's a huge amount of effort and heart that goes into it. But during that time, I had the idea to do a show here. I wanted to show here, but I also really wanted to show with some other women who I knew who are great photographers. So I knew Goodyn Green's work before I met you, and same with Paula Winkler. I also knew her work before I met her, and I got to know Goodyn more in the past couple of years, and I really wanted an opportunity to do something with you and Paula, so I asked both of them if they would consider doing a show of 3 women photographers dealing with queer issues. We all live in Berlin. We're from 3 different countries. Denmark, I'm Canadian originally, and Paula is from Berlin. So we have some similarities and some differences. So my idea was to show 3 women photographers. We all deal with queer themes. We identify as queer or not necessarily. So the important thing was that we were 3 women who run in similar circles and deal with similar subject matter, or the base ideas come from some similar places. A lot of gender awareness, both the people in front of the camera and the people behind the camera, like Goodyn was just saying about who's making the images. So putting together the show, I knew Goodyn's work, and I know that as a lesbian she photographs, at this point, mostly other women, and that approach, rather than, she said, the traditional heterosexual male view of women. And then with Paula Winkler, I knew her work Close Encounters really well, which is a series she did of men in hotel rooms, and again it was a switch of the traditional man photographer, naked woman in a hotel room. She totally turned that around, and the images are absolutely stunning. And then this piece of work, which is the first time she's showing it, is called Diesmal, and it's about a man who likes to dress as a woman, and his experience of that. The idea of the exhibition was to present 3 queer-themed women photographers in a space. This work is a project that's ongoing. It's called zu zweit, and it was inspired by the idea of non-traditional queer family structure. And it developed a bit to show pairs of people, at least one of whom identifies as queer, to show how we as queer people form our families and identities and how we represent ourselves. So it's different groupings of people, and this is a small selection of the work, which is about 20 to 30 images, the final work.
My show is called Between Sheets, and I think I took the first photos for this series maybe 3 years ago, and initially it was supposed to be like some kind of documentary fiction where I put myself in the role as the lover of the women I was photographing, and that I just wanted to portray them in intimate situations. And it then developed a little bit into being more of I saw so many of these types of photographs of like nude women in nude and erotic poses, and they were always photographed by men, male photographers. And I wanted to then do the same thing, but then as a female photographer. And then I thought, whenever I see something, whether it's a movie or some art piece, it changes my perception of the art when I know who took it, who's behind it. Because we're so used to it being a heterosexual white man standing behind things, and it changes the way I see things. And I thought it would be interesting if it would change also people's perception of the actually same kind of poses and intimacy that we often see, the way we objectify women, but then being shot by a woman. I don't know, I think it's capturing life and then just having it standing still in front of my eyes. The possibility of using photography as a medium like that. I don't know, I think I often walk around in the streets and wish that I could do this, and then the image would stand still and I would take it with me home. I just love that as a medium, what you can do, just everything about it. The camera, the technique is like an amazing invention, basically. Yeah. That excites me.
I'm obsessed with photography, and I kind of always have been. So I started taking pictures a really long time ago when I was quite young. There's so many different aspects to it, right? Like portraiture, photojournalism, more conceptual art. It kind of doesn't matter to me. I'm pretty obsessed with it, and it's an opportunity to see the world. Gives everyone an opportunity to see places they might not otherwise be able to go. I could talk for a long time about this. I think I can only speak for myself. For me, at this point in my life, queer is as much about sexuality as it also is about lifestyle. I think Berlin is a fairly special place to be, and our definitions here of queer and the people who participate in queer culture are much more open-ended than they are in some other places. I know a lot of people in other parts of the world who would never identify as queer, who are gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender. Here the term seems to take on a larger, all-encompassing meaning. I know some people who don't like to be called queer. For me, it's an important part of who I am, and it really relates to my photography. The people I'm drawn to photograph, the people I want to be around, the people who support me, the people who are my friends, the people I collaborate with, the people who are really there at the end of the day when you're like, everything's gone to shit and you're crying because it's a community to me, so it's really a community. Yeah.
Well, I want to say one thing, and that is actually queer used to mean a lot more to me than it does today. I agree with you that it's great to have being surrounded by people who identify as queer, but I've actually I see a bigger importance for me personally in identifying as a lesbian. When that is said, I still identify as queer, but lesbian comes first. Feminist woman, feminist lesbian, queer, it's all together. And I think specifically because when I got used to the whole idea about queer, it opened my whole world. And I needed that. I needed to know that there's so much out of the sex positive vibe that is definitely in Berlin. That's why I moved here. I was looking for that. I needed to get into that kind of environment. And it opened a lot of doors. And now I feel I'm in a place in my life where something that I identified with earlier in my life. The whole lesbianism somehow has just like narrowed down totally within the last maybe 5 years or something. And I feel now, for me personally, it's important that I focus on that, and I also spread it out a little bit. And queer has taken over too much. But of course, in a political way, that's why I don't want to say that it doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't want to be misunderstood. It means a lot. It is the whole, no matter which sexuality you have, but you just don't want to conform. No, you don't want to, what's it called? You don't want to fit into these norms of heterosexuality or these heterosexual standards. But of course, you can still be straight and identify as queer. But it's just the way, So yeah, of course, that means a lot.
What you're saying just reminded me, like, the encompassing term of queer is one of the few places where people of all genders can come together. But that is true that in some ways it can kind of erase the identity of being a lesbian, or...
It definitely put that part in shadows, and it became almost, like, it has been like very not cool for long to say that. And I feel it's about time.
To say what?
That you're a lesbian. In Berlin, it was definitely, I'm a queer woman, I'm queer, I'm not a lesbian, and I feel that, but I am. I don't want to be afraid of saying that and using that, and I wish that more people who identify as lesbians, of course, are. But of course, the great thing about Berlin is that there are so many definitions, and I mean, this is why I live here, and it's all the people I photograph are not necessarily lesbians, just because I am, and sometimes I have to remember to say, oh, but it's not a lesbian project, it's a queer project, because my models are not identifying as lesbians, all of them. But yeah, I mean, Berlin, if there are people sitting out there watching this right now, feeling a little shaky, they have to come to Berlin, because it's like, it's just a queer mecca. Like seriously, all the cities I've been in, there's nothing as big and queer.
Yeah. And it's a great place to learn, see that you're probably not alone, and you're probably not the only one, whatever that means to you.
I'm working on porn still. Like, I want to do more porn, so that's what I'm mostly putting my creative thoughts into.
And you mean like video rather than stills?
Video, yeah. Yeah, I mean, my stills I don't see as pornography, that's more erotica.
Interesting.
But with films, yeah, porn films.
Okay. And I'm actually doing a still photography project about queer porn in Berlin, an ongoing project. Behind the scenes on film sets and portraits of directors and producers and actors, but I've also just started a really exciting project for me about women and girls who play football, soccer, hopefully around the world. So it's not directly related to queer issues, but it's related to feminism and women's rights and women's health and awareness. So that's what I'm working on.